In this lesson, we're going to factor trinomials that have a leading coefficient of 1 and a leading coefficient that's not 1. They're two types, pretty much. Let's start with the first one. We have a leading coefficient of 1 because notice the number in front of x squared is 1. What we're going to do is we're going to make a box. This time, I know my answer though. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my answer in the box. So I'm going to have x squared and 18. Now my two numbers have to add to negative 9. Well, notice that's the diamond problem we just did, isn't it? So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 18 and add to negative 9. Well, we could do some guessing and checking. In fact, let's just go through this. So 1 and it would be negative 1 and negative 18. That doesn't work, does it? Negative 2 and negative 9, they add to negative 11. But then we get to negative 3 and negative 6. So I'll get negative 3x, negative 6x. So then I'm going to look for my greatest common factor. So going vertically, the thing that goes into x squared and negative 6x is x. Vertically, what goes in a negative 3x and 18 is negative 3. If your first term is negative, factor out a negative. Then going across, what goes in x squared and negative 3x? Well, that'll be x. And then what goes in a negative 6x and 18 is negative 6. So my answer is x minus 3 and x minus 6. And if you notice, since I just did 3 and 6, I don't really need to make my box with a leading coefficient of 1. That was just to help us out. So if we take a look at example 2, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 14, but they add to 5. And that means my bigger one is going to be positive, isn't it? Because I want to add to 5. So if I do some guessing and checking, 14 and negative 1, they add to 13. And then my next one would be 7 and negative 2. So I'm going to say x plus 7 and x minus 2. And we're done. That's what you do. Now, sometimes you might come to one that you can't find anything. Well, that would be a prime. We'll probably do one of those. Let's take a look at example 2. I have two numbers that multiply to negative 4, and they add to negative 3. Sometimes this is the simplest one, but it's the hardest one because you notice right away negative 4 and 1. Don't we get that? So I say x minus 4 and x plus 1. And there's your answer for that one. Now if we take a look at our next one, let's try two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to negative 4. So they both have to be negative. So negative 8 and negative 1, they add to negative 9. Negative 4 and negative 2, they add to negative 6. And then that's it, isn't it? You can't find anything. If you can't find anything, we say this is a prime trinomial. It doesn't factor. Not everything factors. The only thing that goes into it is 1. Now in example 4, here's where things switch up. If you have a number in front of x squared, like we do here, first thing you do is do what we did yesterday. Does anything go into all three of them? Well, in this case, it's even, isn't it? So I can factor out a 2. So I'm going to say 2 times 2x squared plus 9x minus 5. Now, when you have a number in front of, when you have a leading coefficient, you must use the box. I'm going to kind of ignore that 2 up front. I'm going to write 2x squared here and negative 5 there. Now, when you have a number in front, we're going to use what's called the AC method. That is, I'm not looking for numbers that multiply to negative 5 because I got to multiply my first and last. What's 2 times negative 5? Well, that's going to go on the top of my x. Is I want two numbers that multiply to negative 10, but they add to 9. Well, the only way to do that would be 10 and negative 1, wouldn't it? So I'm going to put 10x here, negative 1x here. The order you put them in doesn't matter. Now I'm going to go vertically and find my factors. I'll change colors here so it's easy to see. So vertically, that thing that goes into 2x squared and negative x is x. What goes into 10x and negative 5, that will be 5. Positive 5 because the 10 is positive. Then going across, what goes into 2x squared and 10x? Well, that will be 2x. What goes into negative x and negative 5, the only thing that goes into them is 1. Now my 2 from the original doesn't go away. So I'll put my 2 up front. And then one of my parentheses going across the top is x plus 5. Going down the side, I'll get 2x minus 1. So look for a common factor, make your box, and then rate your factors. Let's try another one here. Now, unlike the last one, nothing goes into all of these, does it? So I make my box. I fill in the 2x squared. I fill in the 21. Now, I know my two other numbers have to add to negative 17, so I know they're both going to be negative. I multiply 2 times 21, and that's 42. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 42, but they add to negative 17. And at first glance, it seems like it's kind of hard. Negative 1 and negative 42, they add to 43. Negative 2 and negative 21, they add to 23. Negative 3, oh, there we go. Negative 14, right? 14 times 3 is 42. So negative 3 and negative 14 is what I put in here. Negative 3x, negative 14x. So I'll vertically go down. 2x squared and negative 14x is going to be 2x. Negative 3x and 21. Since my first term is negative, I'll make that a negative 3. Going across, the only thing that goes into 2x squared and negative 3x is x. And negative 14 and 21 is negative 7. Now I can write that out then, so it'll be 2x minus 3 and x minus 7. Notice you can do a quick check and you'll get the same answer that we started with by multiplying out. 2x squared minus 17x plus 21 gives us our answer.